Hello and welcome to History Through Fiction, the podcast. I'm your host, Colin Mustful, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Alison Haselden, the writer, actor, director, producer of the audio drama Wicked Dames. Alison, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Colin. I really am excited to be here with you today.
Well, let's just start with what is Wicked Dames?
What is Wicked Dames? So, Wicked Dames, I wrote as both an audio drama, which is out now, which is a 10-episode scripted podcast, fiction podcast, and I did write the novel manuscript version of it as well, but that is still kind of going through rounds of edits. So hopefully one day that'll also be out in book version. But right now, it's an audio drama, which is kind of a different sort of format.
So, which came first? Did it start as an audio drama in your mind? Did it start as a novel manuscript?
Yeah, so it actually, when this idea downloaded into my mind, I saw it very clearly as a TV series, actually. So I wrote the script as a TV show, and ended up deciding to produce it as an audio only version. So the audio drama was born from that. But as I was writing the scripted version, I think for me, my background is, and I went to journalism school, and long form content writing has always been my primary area of work as a writer, not actually TV writing. So I was like, oh, I need to, it was helping me to write it as a book as well, to kind of process the story in a format I was more comfortable
Okay. Well, I want to ask you a lot more about that, but I don't want to
with.
get too far away from the story. Let's dive into that a little bit. So, who are these wicked dames? Who are the characters, and what is the story about?
Absolutely. So, Wicked Dames, the story is about young women who seduced and killed Nazis in World War II Germany. Um, these women in my story are based in Berlin, Germany, and they are all from a few different backgrounds. So, our story centers around a set of sisters named Violet and Elizabeth Fisher, and they are teenagers still in high school, and their mother goes mysteriously disappearing one day. And so, in their escapades to find her, they kind of stumble into this world of espionage and rebel organizations who are looking to take out the Nazis from within Germany itself. So through that kind of experience that they go on, I don't want to spoil too much. They end up connecting with a few other young women to form the Wicked Dames. So Iris is a lounge singer in a secret swing club called the Schadenfreude. Uh, and then they also meet a young Jewish girl in hiding named Hannah, who is Jewish but looks very, very traditionally German. So she ends up staying in Germany. And then the final member of the Wicked Dames is Cornelia, who is the daughter of a very wealthy German family, Nazi sympathizing German family. And when her life is changed in a very dramatic way, she chooses to enact her revenge by joining the Wicked Dames. And those are our core five girls.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot happening,
Yes.
but I'm curious about the history behind the story. What real events and real people did you base it on? What kind of research did you do to tell this story?
Yeah. So the story kind of formulated in my subconscious over several years after being exposed to a lot of these real life stories. There were, in fact, many young girls and young women all throughout Europe who were in this very position where there were teenagers or young university students who had no background whatsoever in espionage or in combat, who would be recruited by local rebel groups to seduce and take out the bad guys. And there was a few different stories. So my dad loves history as well. And so he would often send me these stories because he just knew I'd be interested in them over the years. So it was kind of like my brain just kind of was picking up little pieces of inspiration from these amazing real life women. And one day, this kind of concoction came together in my mind for Wicked Dames. But yeah, I was inspired by a lot of the civilians, especially who had absolutely no training. There was a few girls, Dutch girls, who did this often, and they would literally just hop on their bicycles and do drive-bys and take out a guy, or they would seduce, flirt with a Nazi soldier, and then lure him into the woods where a rebel member would eliminate them there. So these things were happening all throughout Europe, and I think it's really interesting that no one has really tapped into this story. I mean, we have so many World War II stories, um, and I have not really seen much focus on this. Maybe there's, a more intelligence espionage like trained female agent in a lot of these stories, but you don't really see it a lot with the younger untrained women. And when I realized that, I was like, well, someone's got to do something with this, and I figured that someone could be me. So that then led into a very long rabbit hole of research on what parts of real history I wanted to tap into and which parts I wanted to kind of magnify and add a bit of fantasy to as well.
I think that's really great that you were able to dig up and share that history through the story. Tell me a little bit about the craft of storytelling here, and now that you have the background for these young women, how did you make them into complex characters?
Yeah, absolutely. That is something that I think as a writer is my very favorite thing to do. I love complexities. I love the shades of gray of the human experience. And the fact that, especially in times of war, it's really difficult when you're in that moment to know what is actually right or wrong in a lot of these situations. It's so easy for us to kind of look back on things after they've happened in history and analyze them. But I really wanted to stay very rooted in the present moment for each of these women of what did they know in that moment? And with that limited information, what would they be feeling as they had to make these decisions and try to make the best possible decision for them with their each unique moral compass and code, because each of our five wicked dames has a very different sort of um, ethics code of how they want to move through the world, and they're linked with this common goal. So that was really important for me, was to keep the humanity of it, to keep also like the innocence of it. I think a lot of times when we're talking about writing characters in times of war, it's very easy to make them all feel quite heroic and confident and knowing what to do, or sure, maybe they're scared of the danger, but rising above. And I think the fact that my characters are all teenagers pretty much up to the oldest of our Wicked Dames is like 21 and the youngest is 16. So I wanted to make sure that that youthful naivety and quest to kind of understand the world in general, much less the world during a time of war, was really present. So I think that really helped create some of those layers. Um, and yeah, I also wanted to keep a lot of that youthful like sense of humor as well. So it's not, even though this is a really intense drama action story, there are moments of levity. There's more moments of um, really sweet moments of connection and things like that too. So it was important to me to kind of examine them as full people and not just like a pawn in a big chess match.
Yeah, and that really makes them complex, realistic, and makes the story a lot more authentic and relatable to people. So I think that's great. Um, so I have so many more questions, and I want to. I really admire what you're doing. So first, I guess I'll ask for other authors out there that are ambitious enough. Any of our stories, our novels, can be told in different formats. Um, what do you recommend for someone who wants to be ambitious and to try to do something like you did, make their novel into a podcast or an audio drama or whatever it might be?
Yeah. So for me, I'll give a little background in my thought process here. So um, I have been working in the entertainment industry as an actor for this is my 20th year working professionally. I know I look young, but so I have been very fortunate to be exposed to a lot of crossover between traditional forms of writing as well as the entertainment industry, film and TV styles of writing, as well as all these performers. So the concept of creating something like this, I think, was a little bit more accessible to me. It didn't feel as scary because I was fortunate enough to know just a little bit of how these things kind of happened. So that was really great. Um, I think it's definitely a shift in approach though, right? My like I said before, I really do see this as a TV show. So in my mind, my hope was to have this out in the world as close as I could get it to the TV version, within reason and my budget and abilities at this time. And so that was my driving force through all of this. I wanted it to feel very visceral. I wanted it to come to life. I wanted listeners to fall in love with my characters. So hopefully we can get some support around the story when eventually I decide to pitch it for TV. Um, so that was my leading kind of through line as I was working through the project and really helped keep my compass straight when making all these decisions. And I will say it's honestly much more feasible than many people realize. I am not shy about the fact that I had a budget of $5,000 total for this entire project. But that did require getting really scrappy and using a lot of connections and resources to make it happen, but it is totally doable. So I partnered with a lot of up and coming actors who are looking for material for their reels. And so those actors often are willing to take a little bit of a budget cut on their fees, which was amazing. And same with my editor. I was working with an editor who was eager to get into the fiction podcasting world, but needed some more examples for his portfolio. So um, that really is what made it possible to have such a robust and very talented cast and crew for this. And then it required a lot of organization on my part because my budget was so small on the production side. It was really just me kind of having to wear a lot of different hats. So if you don't have an entertainment industry background, I would absolutely recommend doing that research up front on some of the logistics of what it takes to do a production of this type. I was very fortunate I had some experience with that with my career as an actor. But without that, it would have been much more overwhelming and probably would have taken a lot longer. So, a lot of this information, though, is available online. It really is accessible. There's a lot of free trainings and tutorials. So, I would definitely recommend digging into that and kind of getting that game plan together before jumping into it. Um, and oh gosh, and then the adaptation from traditional book manuscript format to script is a whole other thing. But again, I think there's a lot of free resources that can help with that as well. But it is definitely you have to be very aware of um, what your characters can portray without visuals, and as well as what your narrator can say without it being too wordy, because I didn't want it to be a full-on audiobook. I did want it to be more of a lived experience for the listeners.
So you mentioned having to wear a lot of hats. When I introduced you, I listed off all of your credits. Tell me about the hustle that's involved in all this, and maybe if you are willing, share some of the ups and downs of all that.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of joke that I have a multi hyphenate charm bracelet, and every year I add a new charm on it, which is kind of the nature of the entertainment industry right now, and I think also for a lot of traditionally published authors as well. I feel like every year there's new skills to learn that can help create opportunities, and so that has always been kind of my thought process on it. Is I love what I do. I love storytelling. I love creating characters. I love playing characters. And so um it's almost just like an innate drive that I'm going to figure it out, right? Whatever it takes, whatever new skill I need to learn, whatever new format is up and coming that I can learn how to play with um to tell my stories and to connect with communities who will appreciate my stories. Um, it's kind of like almost, I know it sounds silly, but it's almost like I don't even think about it. I'm like, yes, great, something new to learn, some new way to play in the creative sandbox. But it definitely is. I think the hardest part for me is that often I feel like there's no roadmap, right? I don't have a mentor telling me what to do next. I don't have um, a even I do have representation, but my agent isn't telling me what to do next. So a lot of times you're kind of just on your own and have to trust in your intuition and make strategic choices based on your own convictions, which is can be scary at times, especially when your peers or folks who you admire haven't gone down that direction before. I think everyone kind of has those moments of like, oh my gosh, am I just insane? Am I in my own delusions here, or is this really something? But I think I was very fortunate with this story. I felt like I had an obligation in a way to tell this particular story about the Wicked Dames. Um, and so anytime I kind of was doubting myself or felt tired or wanted to throw the towel in, I would take a little rest and just kind of connect back to the passion I had for this story and for telling stories about complex women. And that was really helpful. I think the concept of rest, don't quit.
You also do some marketing and offer marketing services. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I do. Yes. It's all kind of connected, I think. Like I said, the multi hyphenate charm bracelet, all the different elements kind of come together for me, which I'm very, very grateful for. Yeah. So I grew up as a child actor. And then marketing had kind of always danced around that world in the entertainment industry. So when I decided to go to university, I went to the University of Florida College of Journalism for public relations. And then I graduated and started a career in marketing. And that's what I've been doing ever since then, alongside my creative pursuits. So it's been really helpful. Right now, I'm consulting on my own after about 8 years working in corporate and agency worlds as a marketer. I decided I wanted to specialize in working with other creatives who are at the executive level. So I'm very fortunate now to get to do that. And it's been fun. I work with everyone from other authors and creatives to one of my clients is in a Grammy Award winning band. Um, I have actors I work with who are all around the world, and it's been pretty fun. I think it's nice to be able to use those kinds of skills to help uh, further other creatives' careers, especially people I believe in.
And I have to ask, which Disney princess were you?
Oh, it always comes up. Yeah, so my high school job, I'm from Orlando, Florida originally, and in high school, I worked at Walt Disney World and I portrayed Snow White, Merida from Brave, and Anna from Frozen.
Fun.
Yeah,
Well, I have a couple more questions I want to ask before we wrap things up.
sure.
I guess I will ask first. So who ultimately is Wicked Dames for, and where can they find it?
Absolutely. So I really wrote Wicked Dames for the girls. Absolutely. But I think it is accessible. I want it to be accessible to all gender demographics, but specifically young people. So I really do kind of think of historical fiction and fantasy as being very close together. And I kind of wanted to tap into folks who enjoy both of those genres, who love the high paced action, mystery, adventure, but also really do enjoy tapping into those period pieces as well. Um, and I wanted to make history feel accessible and fun in that way for the younger generations, because I know a lot of times folks tend to assume of World War II stories skew very masculine and maybe older demographics, but I wanted this to kind of be representative of the younger female demographic. So it's definitely targeted for that group, but I think a lot of other demographics as well will enjoy it. And you can stream Wicked Dames on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, iHeartRadio. And there's a lot of exclusive extras. I have all of the secret letters and things like that on my website at alisonhaselden.com/wicked-dames.
And you talked about making this into a novel. But you also talked about so many different things that you keep adding to your charm bracelet. So what are your big ideas right now? Where are you headed here in the future?
Yeah. So, ironically, right now I am working on a YA fantasy novel. So that's kind of what I'm doing whenever I'm not working on Wicked Dames. Obviously, getting Wicked Dames fully completed and out in the world is a work in progress. And I really see myself working on Wicked Dames for the next few years. I'm hoping to do another edit pass on it in 2025 and kind of decide if we want to query the novel at that time. Um, but I'm working on the YA fantasy as well. And then I'm also looking forward to a film I'm in with Rebel Wilson called Bridehard coming out hopefully as well in 2025. So a little bit of everything.
Well, Allison, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on Wicked Dames, and I can't wait to see what comes next for you.
Thank you so much, Colin. This was so much fun.